Hey everybody, and welcome to week 2 of our series called Not Too Young. My name is Josh Black and I am the youth pastor here at North Park Fanshawe. I'm so glad that you are here watching our junior high Sunday morning content, whether it's on a Friday or a Saturday or Sunday. I'm just so happy you're here. Now, this is the final week of our series Not Too Young. So if you haven't watched the previous 2 weeks, you can go back on YouTube, you can watch those, you can find week 1, week 2, and now this is gonna be week 3. And we've been talking about how we are not too young, specifically middle schoolers, junior highs, because I am getting older, but you are still young and we want you to know how much value you have, even though you are young. And we've been talking about how it doesn't matter. You can make faith your own, right? Your faith is your own and you can do that even as junior high students. And today we're gonna take on week 3. We're gonna talk about the wise adults in our life. So we're gonna jump into the video, then we'll come back and I will give you a question to think about, and then we'll leave you from this series. And don't forget that we have another series starting next week here on this YouTube channel, whether you're at Stratford or Fanshawe, on these YouTube channels. We've got our next series coming up next weekend. All right, so let's jump into this week's video and then I'll be right back.
All right, just had something down in the basement I had to get. What's up, everybody? My name is Brett, and I'm so excited that you're here. I've got a question for you. Have you ever been in a place so loud that you couldn't even hear the person next to you? Like you're at a football game and everybody is screaming around you, or you're on a bus that's filled with kids and it's just chaos, or everybody in the cafeteria is all talking at the same time and it's just like a cloud of white noise everywhere. So a few years ago, my family was down at the beach, and I'm not kidding you, the wind was blowing like 40 miles an hour. The sand, it's in my eyes. It was like you would stand, like you couldn't even stand still. And sometimes the beach is already loud, right? Like the waves are crashing and everything. Between the wind and the waves, I mean, I couldn't even hear a word that my wife or the kids were trying to say to me. Honey, the kids want a snack. What's that? Honey, the kids want a snack. Yeah, I think we should go back. I said snack. We tried to talk to each other, but it was almost impossible. It was just chaos. Or have you ever been to a restaurant with your friends or your family and the music there is so loud that every time someone tries to start a conversation, no one has any idea what you're saying? Maybe you actually kind of prefer that with your family, but probably not so much for your friends. Sometimes it feels like that, just in life, right? Sometimes it seems like there's just so much noise happening all around you that it's hard to actually listen to the people that you really want to hear. That can be a lot like every day, right? We have so many voices competing for our attention. Parents and siblings and teachers and friends and coaches and small group leaders, people that you follow on Instagram, YouTubers that you watch, even me. Those voices are all speaking into your life and asking for your attention. And when you put all of those voices together, the level of noise can get pretty high. And the truth is, it's hard to hear the right voice when there are so many voices competing for your attention. And when those voices belong to adults, that can make things even more difficult. But why is that even important? Because believe it or not, there's a lot of power in listening to the adults in your life. The people who are older and wiser and want to help you make a difference in this world. The people who love you and want to help you get it right. And if we're honest, I think that we'd all say sometimes that actually listening to those voices can be difficult. Why? Well, for some of you, it's hard to listen to some adults because you just don't think they understand. After all, it was a really long time ago since they were in middle school. They don't know anything about Instagram or Roblox or whatever middle schoolers are really like these days. So how could they possibly understand you? Or maybe you're hesitant to listen to some adults because you don't really think they have time for you. You know that they're busy and it feels like you're bothering them, so you don't really try to spend time with them or get to know them or ask them questions because you're just kind of afraid that you're gonna get in the way. Maybe you struggle to listen to the adults in your life because you're worried that it means that you won't get to choose as many things for yourself, right? Because it seems like adults are always wanting to be in charge of you, telling you what to do, and you don't want less freedom in your life. You want more. Or maybe you wish that you could listen to some wise adult voices in your life, but you just don't know any. It feels like most of the adults in your life aren't making great choices themselves, so why would you listen to their advice? If you knew an adult who could help you, that would be great, but since you don't, you sort of feel like you're on your own. Listen, no matter what category you fall in, I get it. I understand there are a lot of reasons that listening to adults can seem like a difficult thing to do. But trust me when I tell you that finding a way to listen to the voices of older and wiser and trustworthy people in your life is just so important. I know because I've experienced that myself. I've seen how their voices have helped me in my life and in my faith. And that's something that I want you to experience too. But it's not easy, right? It might even feel pretty risky. You might not even have any idea where to begin. How can we really listen to the voices of wise people in our lives? Well, let's talk about two really amazing guys, Paul and Timothy. Both were leaders in spreading the message of Jesus to others after he had died and rose again. And they both understood that knowing Jesus changes everything. So Paul was older than Timothy, and Paul did a lot of traveling and actually met Timothy when Paul was visiting his town. Paul was impressed by Timothy, and even after he began traveling again, Paul would send Timothy letters of instruction and encouragement a lot as they worked and served together. As a young person, Timothy had a choice. He could either listen to Paul's voice in his life, or he could tune it out. Thankfully for us, Timothy chose to listen. Above all the other noise, Timothy chose to turn Paul's voice up, and because of that, the message of Jesus continued to spread. So let's look back at one of the most important messages that Paul delivered to Timothy. Here's what he says. He says, "Don't let anyone think less of you because you're young. Be an example to all believers in what you say and the way you live, in your love, your faith, and your purity." So Paul knew Timothy was hearing from a lot of different voices in his life. And so many of those voices didn't believe what Timothy was capable of doing. Paul encouraged Timothy, though, to turn the volume down on those voices and instead focus on growing his faith and setting an example in his actions. I think that's pretty good advice. It's exactly the kind of thing that I hope an older, wiser person would have said to me. As an adult in Timothy's life, Paul knew the influence that his voice had over Timothy. And because of that, Paul spent time making sure that he gave Timothy a lot of important advice, really about all kinds of things. Things like how to fix a stomach problem, what to do when people were fighting, how to choose good leaders, specific names of people to avoid spending time with, how to use the Bible, how to treat people when you're leading them, how to handle money, what kind of stuff to avoid, what kind of people to hang out with, how to impress older people. Personally, when I see a list like that, it looks pretty helpful to me. And that's why Timothy took what Paul said and listened. He knew that Paul was someone who was wiser, that he could learn from and trust. And he knew that having a voice in his life like that was valuable. Just like we see with Timothy and Paul, when you choose to listen to wise and trusted adults, your life will be better. It will be more full of growth and knowledge and more wisdom and more potential than you can probably even imagine. I promise that's true. I think that's one of the most important things we can take away from Paul and Timothy's relationship, that you're not too young to learn from the wise adults in your life. Now, listening to every single voice in your life will only create more noise, but listening to the right voices, that can help you. So you've got to make a decision to turn down the volume on other voices so that you can turn up the volume on the voices that matter. See, when it comes to the adult voices in your life, you get to choose who gets to speak loudly in your life. Does that mean that you disrespect and tune out all of the other adults? No, of course it doesn't mean that. One of the things that Paul encouraged Timothy to do was treat everybody with respect. And the same is true for you and for me. This isn't a free pass to ignore the rules of your parents or step-parent or the instructions of your teacher or the voice of your coach at practice. Part of growing means learning to listen with respect. But choosing to listen to wise adults in your life means turning up the volume on the adult voices who care about you, who want to see you grow and know what you're capable of. It means making their voices the loudest voices in your life. I think we can all get inspired by some of my students that we're about to hear from right now. They decided to listen to the wise adults in their life, and they turned up the volume of that person's voice, and some pretty awesome things happened as a result.
A wise adult I've gotten advice from is my counselor at school.
My mom would be one of those people that helps me with advice because she helps me as a choreographer and a dancer, and she just gives me notes and she helps me with a lot of my dancing skills. So she helped me be the dancer I am today.
Some people I get my advice from are my parents and my small group leaders from church.
A wise adult in my life that I've gotten advice from is probably my papa.
Like my students just shared with us, I think that we could all benefit from asking wise people to speak into our lives, because you're not too young to learn from the wise adults in your life. So how do we do this? How How do we know which adult voices we should turn up? How do we let them impact our lives in a positive way? Well, here's where you can start. First, decide what. What is one thing that you could use some advice on in your life? What's an area in your life that you could use the voice of someone older and wiser? Maybe it's a problem in your friend group or a big decision you have to make, or maybe some conflict at home. Figure out what it is that you might need help with right now. And if you don't have something specific right now, that's okay too. There's value in having an older, wiser person as a part of your life in good times and in bad. So think about something great that you want to share too, a goal that you have or some good news that you just received, something that you want to celebrate with somebody. You can share that with somebody older and wiser too. Next, decide who. Decide who can be a part of your team of 3 to 5 adults that speak into that area of your life. Maybe you ask a parent or a step parent or grandparent, maybe a group leader, a coach, a teacher, an older sibling, a friend's parent, whoever they are. Think of 3 to 5 adults who you know make wise decisions in their own lives. Adults who make wise decisions themselves will be able to help you do the same thing. Are they also people who will tell you the truth, even if that's not always what you want to hear? Because if they are, then they're people who care about you and want to help you grow. If these are people who are trustworthy, especially to other students like you, they are people that you can confide in about anything in your life. And the last one, ask them. Invite that team of people to speak into your life. Reach out and ask for their advice on the things that you're dealing with. You can simply start by sending a text message that says, hey, can I talk to you about something? I know doing that probably feels a little bit risky, but I promise that they're gonna be excited to help you because the chances are someone older and wiser helped them along the way too. And if you already have someone older and wiser speaking into your life already, then thank them for being somebody who is helping you grow. Now, I realize that some of you might be afraid to invite an adult to speak into your world because in the past you've been hurt by an adult. If that's true for you, if that's your story, I'm sorry. And I hope that there are some other trusted adults in your life that you've had that conversation with. But I understand why trusting another adult in your life might be hard for you to do. But let me encourage you to start with someone you trust, maybe even a leader in your group. They're here because they love God and they love you. They've proven themselves trustworthy and they would be honored to listen to you. That's why they're here, to get to know your story and to share their wisdom with you. What's awesome about your church is that you already have so many wise adults who want to be that person that you invite to speak into your life. That's why they show up every single week. And that's a big reason why groups are so important. Your group leaders, they want to make sure that you have somebody who's a little bit older and wiser who you can go to with the good and with the bad. So today, consider asking your group leader to be that wise adult for you because you're not too young to learn from the wise adults in your life. You know what? I gotta head back to the basement.
So you are not too young to take advice from wise people in your life, wise adults. And this has been a huge part of my life. I've made it my mission to make sure that I'm taking in as much information, wisdom, and information from wise people in my life. I'm 33 years old and I'm still doing that. So if you can learn that now as a junior high student, that's going to set you up for some great success. And you're going to continue to walk closer and closer to God as you do that. Now, as always, I've got a question for you. So for this week, I want to know, how do you decide who the wise people are in your life? Who do you decide who you're going to take advice from? This is personal for every different person, but maybe this is something that you need to make adjustments to. Maybe you need to learn that not all the peers in your life, not all your junior high friends from school are necessarily wise. Maybe there are some who are wise, but who are the adults in your life that are wise? And who is it and why is it that you're taking advice from them? That's our question for today. So I want you to think about that, maybe talk about it with somebody in your house, friend, and then we're gonna continue on with a new series next week. So that's it for Not Too Young. And don't forget, you are not too young. It's the truth. All right, so have a great rest of your week. We'll see you back next week with a brand new teaching series right here. See you later.